Welcome everyone and greetings from the Buakhart Public Park here in Chiang Mai. Today is the post-race day, so I figured it would be a great moment to have a quick reflection on how the race went, how the race in general was, and maybe like some learning lessons that I'm taking to next race. I will be like splitting the video up into multiple chapters, so make sure to look at the different chapters if you're only interested in certain things. And in case you don't know me, my name is Jonathan. I'm a 27-year-old runner who likes to do all kinds of things and is currently traveling Southeast Asia for the foreseeable future. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. First of all, give you some context about the race itself. The race I participated in was the Hmong 50, which is a 50k mountain race here in Chiang Mai, which initially had 2,000 meters of elevation gain over the course of 50k, but ended up being 54k with almost 2,400 meters of elevation gain, according to Garmin, of course. I don't know if any other platform maybe gave another number when it comes to elevation gain, because those tend to be a bit different from source. 50k race started at 5 a.m. with I think 5 waves in total, each starting 10 minutes apart, and I was in wave 2, meaning I was able to start at 5:10 in the morning. The race course itself was actually really cool, definitely in the beginning. Even though the race did have quite a lot of road sections, that was a bit less ideal, I guess, in a trail race. The first 4k, for example, were purely on roads, and then we got to the actual trail, which was a single track trail with I think close to, was it 2,000 or maybe 1,500 runners, all being on one single track trail. Of course, can lead to some issues. So let's just say the traffic jams were almost inevitable. And even though I myself tried to be like a bit more in the front of the pack because I'm not a fast runner, of course the faster runners would overtake me and I would still end up in a traffic jam, which wasn't that bad since we had to pace ourselves anyway. In general though, the amount of roads we had to run was actually a lot more than I anticipated. For example, between the 30 and 40k mark, we had to follow like this, it wasn't really a road, it was two like almost cobblestone tracks for the cars, which wasn't very flat at all, with like this kind of sand in between, which also wasn't very flat. So it was like, so you had to like almost choose where you had to run, even though none of them were like ideal. So I just remember that being like a section that I didn't really like very much because of how much you had to like focus on not like rolling an ankle, something worth noting. Besides that, the course also had an additional 4k in distance and an additional 400 meters of elevation gain, which isn't the end of the world. I guess you get more for your money, right? So I guess it's not that bad, but when you're like anticipating on being done at 50, it can hurt quite a bit to know that you have to do 4 more. The cool thing about the course after the first big climb was that you were almost like above the clouds, which gave some really cool views and also made it a lot less warm. That was definitely cool until we had to go down, of course, because when we went down, that also meant that the heat was going to increase. And because it was also later in the day, that was also going to be a factor anyway. Definitely like the last 10k, you really felt this as you were descending quite a lot at a short time, resulting in you feeling the increase in temperature so like rapidly. That was definitely a crazy experience. But also because we were above the clouds, this also meant that the temperature was a bit more manageable, meaning like the 33 or 34 degrees that it actually was at that point in the city meant that at the top of the mountain it maybe felt like 26, 27, which feels like a world of difference. So that was definitely nice. Now let's talk about the aid stations. First of all, there were quite a lot of aid stations. They were relatively well spread out as well. They had lots of options and also like some food that you can bring along. That was definitely nice because I didn't have the ideal food strategy, so I kind of relied more on the aid stations, which turned out relatively fine. So definitely props to UTMB, as I heard from some people that there were chances that the aid stations were going to be empty by the time we got there if we were running a bit slower. But I didn't experience any of that. I experienced plenty of food, lots of options, so I definitely can't complain about that. The first aid station was placed a little bit later because it was still early in the day, everyone was still fresh. I feel like that was a relatively good decision, as you would just have to stock up on a bit more water in the first place. For the remainder of the race, all the other aid stations were actually placed at a reasonable position for you to be able to get there with like a liter of water, maybe a bit more. Aid stations, definitely good. And let's quickly talk about the venue. Starting and end venue was definitely cool, like a real UTMB experience, even though I don't really have any to compare it with. It had lots of cool stands, everything you needed for the checklist, which of course is also like a good good financial choice on their part, right? That was definitely nice. The race briefing, for example, was also very clear, hosted very well, and was said in 3 different languages, being Chinese, English, and Thai. For the majority of the people, that was enough. The only thing that I didn't really like was that we were only able to get our bib number from 11 a.m., even though the venue opened quite a bit earlier, and all the people were sitting ready. It just resulted in me having to walk around a bit more, I guess, explore the stalls a bit more. Not the end of the world, but minor remark. Let's talk about the warm-up run. The warm-up run was actually a really cool initiative. I don't know if they do this on all UTMB races, but this was actually really cool to see. I think almost 1,500 people joined, so that was definitely cool to be with so many people, even though it was only 3K. There were people from all ages, ranging from like 6 or 7 all the way up to like 60. So that was really cool. Initially it was planned to start at 6, while the briefing was just an hour before, from 5 to 6 actually, meaning that it was a bit stressful to get there on time. I had to like hurry to get there actually, but once I got there, it turned out they postponed the warm-up race to 6:30, so then I had to just wait there for 30 minutes. It wasn't bad, but I kind of wanted to head back to my hotel as it was getting late and I still had some stuff to get ready for the day off. Let's talk about my performance. So given the state I was in, me having some issues with my shin, when I'm thinking back at it, I think it's more of like a tendon issue, as the pain actually didn't get worse, slowly even got like better the longer I was actually going for. Even today I don't really feel any pain. I don't really feel anything more than I was feeling earlier. It definitely didn't get worse, so now I'm like in this state of like, oh, can I maybe continue running, or should I maybe really take a couple of weeks off? But I guess it's something that I will see now that I also got some different shoes. Maybe that will also be like better, but we'll see. Of course, I was also traveling for the past couple of weeks, so training was quite difficult for me to have like consistent training sessions. That in combination with also like me saving my shin a little bit by not running all the time. That in combination with me not knowing the nutrition I was going to use, because I got all this pretty last minute, mainly because I didn't really know where to get proper nutrition, and none of the brands that I use in Belgium are actually available here. So there was a lot of factors. I broke a lot of rules, like the rules where you should never try something new during the race. I think everything I ate was something I ate for the first time during a race. It actually turned out pretty well. Like I didn't get any stomach pain. I do think I got a little bit too few calories in actually, mainly because I also didn't always know the amount of calories everything was. Like for example, in the aid stations, grabbing like a little roll of mango sticky rice, which was awesome by the way, but I don't know how many calories that is. So it was kind of hard to not overconsume, and instead I think I underconsumed a little bit. But in the end, I'm just happy that I managed to survive the race, because at first I was talking about maybe going for a sub 8. Getting a sub 8 in the 50k course would have already been a challenge, so in the 454, not a chance, at least in the physical state I'm in right now, because I was definitely less physically ready for this race than the 50 miler, for example. Garmin reminded me plenty of times whenever I did a run, it would tell me that my performance was decreasing. So thanks Garmin, thanks. Besides that, I also learned that if I want to continue racing these mountain races, I really need to focus on my downhill skills, as during the downhill I got passed by so many people. I for some reason just wasn't able to go down any faster. Maybe it was also like because I was so fatigued that I couldn't go faster and hold myself, so I decided to go slower, which I then could hold. Lessons learned, I will definitely go do some more training runs in the mountains with plenty of elevation gain. And lastly, I also know for a fact, but I knew this before, that heat is not my best friend. I am not great at handling heat. I noticed this while I was going on this training camp with my triathlon team. This was something that I knew was going to happen. It was still very painful. Let's talk about rewards. First off, we got some really cool shirts, like for example this. This is one of the shirts we got. This is not like a finisher shirt, this is just when you sign up you get this one. Just like the warm-up run, if you sign up for that one, you also got a shirt. I don't have it with me right now. Well, I have it in my bag, but it's not the most special one, but it's cool. And the finishers also got a really cool sweater, which I will make sure to insert a clip of right here, with like a Velcro strip you can add the finisher badge to, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm kind of myself more a fan of the subtle, I guess, sweaters, like not the one that flexes finisher very hard. I don't know if I can get rid of the Velcro strip, because if I can, then maybe I will, because I think the sweater is really cool, but the Velcro is like a bit too much. And if you don't put the badge on there, it just looks kind of weird, because you have a Velcro strip just hanging there. The medal was also really cool, but a bit more special looking than other medals that I've seen before. So I'm definitely very impressed by those gifts we got, even though of course we paid for it. It was a pretty expensive race in the first place, so I'm not saying I expected this, but I kind of expected this. Lastly, one thing that I kind of was anticipating we would get is some kind of food or drink at the end, which as far as I know, we didn't get. Like, I went to the finish area and I asked one of the guys who was working there, like, hey, can we get some food or drink somewhere? And he pointed me to the stalls, which of course we had to pay for, which I guess is fair. It's fair you have to pay for this, but I didn't have any money with me as I just took the bare essentials. So luckily I still had some water in my bladder, so I was able to survive. But that would have been nice because almost all other running races I've participated in, they gave some food and drinks at the end. Minor remark, but if that's the only thing, then so be it. So let's talk about some funny stories actually. During the first big uphill section, there were a lot of traffic jam. Due to the single track trail, there were a lot of people, some trying to overtake, some faster, some slower. There was this one spot, small little river we had to cross, and of course those points are even a bigger traffic jam because people slow down to make sure they can pass safely. And literally while I was waiting there, this one guy in the back tried to pass people going like one of these slippery rocks, and he just slipped out and fell like with his full body on his back in the river. Like, the river wasn't even as big, like the river's literally like as wide as him, and he fell like precisely full body in there. It was quite funny to see, but at the same time I'm glad he didn't really hurt himself that much. He was soaked before the race properly started. Wrote down the fact that I rolled both my ankles, which if you saw yesterday's video, you know that I talked about this. Even though I only talked about one of my ankles being rolled, which was my left ankle, I'm actually glad it didn't like impact the rest of the race. I was just able to continue. I didn't really feel it that much anymore after the 5k post me rolling the ankle. I think maybe like 5 or 10k after I rolled the left one, I also managed to roll the right one, but I rolled that one not as hard, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But still, like, this seems to be like a reoccurring theme lately, that I keep like rolling my ankle more and more, so I need to be careful that I definitely don't break anything, because that would just be horrible. Passing the Hmong village was also like one of the highlights of the race for sure. During the rest of the race, you barely saw any other people. You only saw the people racing, but you didn't like pass anyone else, meaning that passing that village and them having like the little bells shouting to continue going, and whenever you would pass them, they would shout like fighting, fighting, fighting to like support you, keeping it up, you know. That was cool and wholesome. I really liked that. Last thing I wrote down was during the downhill section, I thought it was really funny. I was passed by a lot of people due to me not being very good at going downhill. I was passed by like a 50 or 60-year-old lady who was running the race on flip-flops. Flip-flops. What the hell? Here I am getting stress fractures with these super expensive shoes, and there she is running 54k on flip-flops. Insane, really cool, massive amounts of respect for her. And then let's talk about the aftermath. My shin is actually not even feeling any worse than it was before. I might even say that it's like pretty okay. Maybe it's also because I got some new shoes a couple days ago, that they offer me some more like support that I was maybe lacking in the previous ones. I guess that's definitely good to hear. Now I'm just kind of in between if that means that I can continue running or not, but I'll just at least give it like a week or two to recover, and then maybe I can see if I want to get back into it. The ankles are actually feeling pretty normal as well, so that's also good news. It means that I didn't tear anything badly. Let me actually feel. Yeah, maybe a bit sore, but not like painful, so that's definitely good. My knee, during yesterday's video I mentioned that downhill actually was hurting. Well, my knee actually started hurting during the downhill, and it has been kind of aching ever since. Like, even walking now, I kind of feel some kind of discomfort. All the running yesterday didn't do my knee any good, but it's still fine. I can walk without a problem. So it's, yeah, my legs, I did get a massage yesterday because I heard that getting a massage post-race can actually be good for recovery. And even though I am sore, definitely my hips and my legs and my calves, I'm still feeling quite okay. I'm feeling a bit hungover though. Like, I definitely didn't drink enough or didn't eat enough, like feeling, I guess, dehydrated maybe, or kind of weird. But in a day or two we'll be fine, and then I will be back to the good old Jonathan. And now just for like random things, one thing that I found really cool during the race was that we got like this extra paper. I also had like a tracker, so I guess it was mandatory for that reason, but the little paper also said like your nationality, and I thought that was really cool because since we had to put it on our backpack, you could see where everyone was from, which could easily spark some conversation, which what made me meet like an Irish guy and like someone from America, which was really cool because it like breaks the ice a little bit. You can easily have a chat and run together, which eases the pain. And then lastly, I also have something that I'm definitely going to take to the next race, and that's to not bring stuff you won't use. Like, I packed 2 packs of 220 grams, being like almost half a kilogram in total, and I carried those the whole race with me because I thought I was going to use them, and after a while I even forgot I had them. Definitely going to be more careful in the future with that, as you know, that could have saved me some energy, right? So, but with that being said, in general it was still a really good experience, a really painful one, but I wouldn't say I regret it. I just kind kind of wish I prepared better for it and that the climate was maybe a bit more suited for me. But I guess I can't choose the climate. I can only choose the race. I race in lessons learned for next time. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them below and I will make sure to get back to you. Besides that, I hope to see you tomorrow.